and welcome back to Always Watching. Today we are discussing The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4, and I have mixed emotions. For the gamers, please explain in the description box below how accurate the show is to the game so far. If the show is accurate with just a few minor changes, that means that the story in Season 2 is just weaker than that of Season 1. First off, I appreciated being back in the world of The Last of Us. Some scenes are honestly so breathtaking, seeing how nature has reclaimed space. Being in Jackson felt so safe, and I think so much of this world really does mirror Joel and Ellie's internal state. One of the reasons Joel didn't really care about a cure is because he lost his daughter, and the only other person giving him some type of purpose or reason to live was Ellie. At Jackson, Ellie and Joel seem to have found some type of equilibrium. And now watching Ellie back into the world, I mean, it's very similar to Joel in that she's really trying to navigate her sorrow. Ellie now has the task of figuring out what life looks like after Joel. She never got to say goodbye, and worse off, she watched him die a violent death. Even if she avenges him, what will be left of her humanity? For Joel, saving her was actually a sign of his own humanity. It does show that whatever love he had for his daughter still does exist. But killing Abby could actually be a sign of her lack of it. Now, watching episode 4, especially considering the pacing, I have serious doubts about where this show is going. First season was incredibly tight. It revolved around Ellie and Joel. Every episode not only strengthened their relationship, but also made the audience invested in their survival. I think when you lose a lead, you really need to compensate. And my issue is the only other person who cared about Joel was his brother Tommy, and he's not here. And at the moment, it feels like we have a number of characters just sitting on the bench. These last 2 episodes have desperately tried to accelerate Dina and Ellie's relationship. It feels very forced to me. At one point, one of the standout scenes is when Ellie is explaining her immunity and how she wishes that she would wake up a different person. Instead, she keeps waking up as the same person, regardless of whether or not she was bitten. This scene is such a highlight, and I feel like so much of the work we had done with Ellie is being diluted because everything we know about Dina, I mean, they're trying to follow the same formula of Joel and Ellie, having these 2 characters largely alone, having us hyper-focus on them. But everything we learn about Dina is force-fed to us, her family, her feelings for Jesse, her opinions about love. And this is an attempt to accelerate her character development. I thought Dina's pregnancy reveal was so random and poorly done. Now, gamers, please explain. I don't know if this is an issue with the show or the game. Is Ellie's immunity just not a big deal? Because when Ellie informs Dina about her immunity, I immediately thought she would have questions. Because Ellie and Joel have kept this secret, this massive secret, for so long. And this secret explains why Abby wanted to kill Joel. Instead, we totally brush over it. I thought the pregnancy announcement totally overshadowed the immunity. And I do like the idea of Ellie going through this journey only to realize that maybe revenge isn't worth it, and actually being forced to make the opposite decision that Joel made by not killing Abby. And I do like the idea of a baby because it does incentivize Ellie to think of what life could look like after Joel. She could start her own family, her own community. However, the way this information is being dropped on us just feels lazy. Like the show never felt lazy in terms of execution, but it's starting to feel really cheap. Now, where the show is the strongest is when the infected arrive. The tension and the anxiety the show is able to create is honestly exceptional. I thought the subway scene was just, I was on the edge of my seat. There's one moment where they're trying to push through these revolving doors and you can feel the stress. I mean, they kind of put you in their shoes. And this episode had so many great moments, but it all feels so disjointed and I'm not really sure how it's going to come together seamlessly. Starting with what I liked, Jeffrey Wright as Isaac was exceptional, and I thought the opening scene is everything you would hope for. We are introduced to these Fedra agents and they're kind of bad-mouthing the citizens they are supposed to be protecting. Josh Peck's guest appearance was so impactful, and again, we have these moments with these guest stars or these kind of minor characters that actually end up overshadowing the main leads. Josh Peck plays this very obnoxious agent. He's recalling an incident revolving around voters, a name referring to citizens whose right to vote was taken away. Josh tells the story with almost no understanding of the context behind it, and you get the feeling with federal officers, it's almost a dictatorship I mean, they're past the point of pretending like they exist to protect people from the infected. And I thought the way Isaac's character was introduced was super epic. All you hear is his voice and then you see his face, and he has such a presence about him. Isaac sacrifices his team in order to join the WLF, and this scene was absolutely cold and brutal. And Isaac does it with no hesitation. Before killing his team, he decides to save only one person, this very naive young officer. And we don't see a lot of this young officer. We just get a before and after. And his transformation is so alarming. He goes from naive soldier to loyal follower, and you're not sure if it's survival or faith that's guiding him. The scene at the start of the episode takes place 11 years prior. The impression I get from Isaac is that there's such a discrepancy between how he sees himself and how he actually is. He likely joined the WLF in an attempt to make the world better, and instead he's become a more powerful and more violent version of himself. And Isaac is the perfect addition to this world because we've been introduced to so many characters who have either been made monsters because of this world or who are thriving because they are monsters in this world. Now, this is where I think the series gets disjointed, because we have this revenge plot with Ellie going on, and then we have this war between the WLF and the Scars. And the Scars are presented to us as religious fanatics who really believe in their cause, and the WLF are basically presented to us as a version of Fedra. I thought the torture scene between Isaac and this young man was honestly the highlight. The makeup on this young man being tortured was unreal. And Isaac is torturing him with this fancy cookware. He explains how prior to the infection, he dreamed of owning a set of this cookware, and he would even calculate how many years it would take him to afford it. There aren't a lot of people who remember life before the infection. Listening to him was like listening to science fiction, and I thought the contrast between Isaac's use of this cookware and Ellie's use of the guitar was fantastic, because it really speaks to how devoid of joy and love Isaac has become. I mean, he looks at this cookware as the Holy Grail, and he's not able to find any joy in it. And you see that throughout the series. I mean, there are certain characters where they're able to find some happiness, and others who have just given up all attempts at it. The young man being tortured has such conviction. He's not moved at all by Isaac's version of events where he is the bad guy and Isaac is the good guy. And it seems like both sides have done a lot of horrible things to each other. However, the Scars have more willpower. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got the feeling that the WLF started this fight. Like when this young man referred to himself as a Seraphite and not a Scar, and the way he laid out his hand, I mean, this is quite scary because ideas are more powerful than weapons. He mentions how so many of his soldiers have already defected to the Seraphites, but the reverse is not true. And you can kind of get that sense. I mean, we're not really introduced to Isaac's crew yet, but there's a young man guarding the door while Isaac tortures him, and he looks like he's ready to defect. And Isaac is employing the same methods he was likely employing with Fedra, and his humanity is paper thin. And honestly, I almost wish the series was an anthology, because we could have just finished with Ellie and Joel in season 1, and now we could have just moved down to the Scars and to the WLF, because this seems like it's very compelling. And I am worried about how these two storylines will connect. I'm assuming they're going to connect when Abby shows up. I really hope Isaac is utilized, because he would be such a waste of a character. While Isaac is trying to plot his next move, we follow Dina and Ellie around. And there were a few highlights. I mean, I thought the record store was one of the highlights. I did like Ellie's rendition of Take On Me. However, I thought Dina's reaction was hella extra. I mean, they're really trying to sell us on their emotional connection, and again, it doesn't feel authentic. I like how the episode utilized their size when you see them running away from those officers and they're able to kind of escape through this tiny hole into the subway. The episode ends with Dina informing Ellie she's pregnant and offering to come with her to find Abby. Now, at this point, it's clear that they will need backup. However, I feel like they could have cut a lot out of this episode. I almost wish this episode was last episode, and this is the episode we got to the point. Like, the pacing feels slow in a way where you're getting more filler than you need. And the reason they're doing that is because they're trying to invest us in their characters. But the way they're doing it is by resorting to nostalgia, using the same tactics they did with Joel and Ellie. However, I think the issue with Ellie's character is that there's nothing to contrast her. Like Joel was such a wonderful contrast. I think Tommy and Jesse could have been a wonderful contrast. And so I'm not really sure at this point. It just feels like a bit all over the place. Once the episode ends, I'm not eager to watch the next one. Like I can wait a week. Whereas in season 1, you were like, I need the next one right now. And so you guys let me know what you think, and until next time.